I've got a statement that I want to ask you guys. I got a question. Have you ever wanted something so bad that it didn't matter what it was that you had to do, you would do it to get it? Have you ever been there? This morning, I want to talk to you about something. It's called taking a chance. Now, before we get into what I need to get into here, I got to define a couple of things for you. There's two words that kind of run hand in hand when we talk about taking a chance. The first word is risk, and I want to define that this morning. This is what Webster says risk is. In the verb form, risk is to expose to the chance of injury or loss. Imagine that. Those two words kind of have the same, they're kind of right there. So I thought, well, that's interesting. Let me see what chance is defined as. Chance is defined as a possibility of something happening, either good or bad. So basically, in my mind, this is the way I see that. For every good thing that has been accomplished, there could have had a chance of it not being good at all. But you still stepped out and you did what it was, and it turned out to be good. But there was that chance that it wouldn't. If I said Evel Knievel in here, who all knows who Evel Knievel is? Man, yeah, you're on it this morning. So, Evel Knievel was the insurance guy turned stunt man. That was the very first person to ever jump the fountains at Caesar Palace. And I looked for video of this thing. I wanted to see what it looked like, and I was going to actually show it this morning, but the video is so old that it's real grainy, and I didn't think you guys could really see anything. So I want to set this up for you. He had a vision that he wanted to do something bigger and better and greater than selling insurance. But there was a chance, a risk that was associated with it. He was going to jump these fountains, and there was a chance that he could have an accident. But he was willing to front his own money. He promoted this thing, man. He promoted it. He took it to ABC Wide World of Sports, and he said, hey, why don't you record this live? I'd love for you to do this. And they said, no, we're not really interested in that. He said, but I'll tell you what you can do. If you'll record it at a later date, we'll play it. So he did. He was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let me set this up for you. So as he goes up on the approach, he does a couple of approaches on this ramp, and man, everything looks good. Third time, he is all in. Man, he is committed. He's on the throttle. The bike is winding out. He's got his little costume on. He's flying through the air. Everything looks good. And then all of a sudden on the landing, the handlebars rip out from his hands, and it throws him into the pavement. Can you believe that? The guy took a risk, and it's going to cost him. He's going to hurt. This is what he got out of that. He got a pelvic bone busted. He got broken wrist. He got a broken femur. He got a broken ankle. And not only that, as if that wasn't enough, 29 days in a coma. 29 days. And this guy fronted his own money for this. But guess what? That was the most viewed motorcycle accident in history. And that one particular accident catapulted him into a career of over 100 successful jumps. And he accomplished what he wanted to do with his life. But there was a risk that was associated with it. Who would have thought having a motorcycle accident that seemed so bad would catapult him into something so good? For me, if I was in that situation, 29 days in a coma, I'd be like, okay, I ain't riding a motorcycle, I ain't getting a car, don't get me a boat, I'm walking from here on out. But that guy was determined. He was willing to take a risk and a chance. Well, you've heard his story. Now you got to hear mine. My story is even better than what Evel Knievel's is. So when I was 11, 12 years old, I used to go to my grandmother's over in a little town called Wheelwright, Kentucky. Anybody heard of Wheelwright? I didn't think so. It's about 200 to 300 people at max. And so there wasn't a whole lot to do on a summer day. And so I rode my bicycle a lot while I was over there visiting my grandmother. And one particular day, I just remember pedaling up this really, really steep hill. And at the top of this hill, there was a truck coming the opposite direction. And I thought, I bet you I can beat that truck. So in order to do that, I had to whip my bicycle around, got down in the perfect, most aerodynamic position I could do, and started pedaling like crazy. Now, keep in mind, I just watched Tour de France, and I seen the way those guys tucked in, and they had their elbows in like this, and man, I was pedaling. The only problem is I didn't have the bicycle that they had, but my BMX was moving. Let me just tell you, I was going light speed at least. I mean, I was so fast. I was beating that truck behind me so good that I wanted to gloat a little bit, so I turned around. And the problem is, see, when you're moving forward, you should never look back because you can't really see what's in front of you. Little did I know that the fine people of Wheelwright, Kentucky that work in the city department had cut about a 3x3 square right out in the pavement. And it was about 6 inches deep. So here I am, I'm coming down this really steep hill, going really, really fast. Like I said, 80 miles an hour at least. Just kidding. I looked up just in time to see the front wheel of my bicycle drop into that hole. And then I see it lodge against the wall on the opposite side of that 3-foot square. Guys, let me tell y'all something. I defy gravity. I'm flying through the air. Now, some of you guys will remember this this show that I'm gonna mention. Have you seen the show Great American Hero back in the 80s? The guy had a problem flying, didn't he? He was flying through the air, and he'd land and he'd break against the wall, crash against the wall on the floor. I looked just like that guy. As a matter of fact, they had a theme song, and as I was flying through the air looking like him, I heard the theme song. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. At that moment, everything that my science teachers had taught me about gravity started to kick in. I had defied gravity for about 2 to 3 seconds. But the next thing I know, I'm on a downward spiral into the pavement. I'm in shorts and T-shirts. I have road rash from right here all the way to the top of my ankles. I'm laying there and I'm thinking, oh God, please let me be dead. But I could tell by the pain in my body that I was still alive. And I thought, okay, I'm really hurting. God, can you just kill me now? And as if that's not bad enough, the guy that I was racing, that had no clue we were racing, pulls up beside of me, looks down and says, yeah, that looked like that hurt. That's stupid. And then pulls off. He just leaves me. I'm bleeding, man. And he runs off and leaves me. So everything I can do, I get up, I get on my bicycle, and as I'm riding back to my grandmother's house, and it just dawned on me. The thought dawned on me that was probably kind of a stupid thing to do. That was a chance that I really didn't need to take. But you know what? It's given me a lot of laughs over time. And I heard you guys laughing, and you were laughing at my pain. What is up with that? No. But this morning, you say, how does that tie into what you're wanting to talk about? I'm glad you asked. We're going to talk about a situation in the Bible by 4 lepers. They took a chance. And their chance worked out a whole lot better than what mine was. 2 Kings chapter 7, if you have your Bible, you can turn there. If not, no big deal. We're going to have it up here on the screen for you. I'm going to be reading now the Message Bible, and I want you just to listen to this. It says, it happened that 4 lepers were sitting just outside the city gate of Samaria. They said to one another, what are we doing sitting here at death's door? If we enter the famine-struck city, we're going to die. If we stay here, we're going to die. So let's take our chances in the camp of the Syrians and throw ourselves on their mercy. If they receive us, we'll live. I love this part. If they kill us, we're just going to die. We've got nothing to lose. Now, let me give you the backstory of what's going on here. In chapter 6, if you read before that, there's a famine in the land. For those of you that maybe your vocabulary is not that great, a famine just means people dying. They're starving. That's all that is. So we're going to reduce that down a little bit. I had to look that up. What's a famine? No, I'm just kidding. I really didn't have. Okay, I did, Dylan. I did have to look that up. But anyways, this famine was so bad that it says that a donkey's head was going for 80 shekels of silver. Now, what that means in today's time, 1 shekel of silver is the equivalent of $5 of U.S. currency. So this donkey's head was worth $400. And then if you couldn't afford that, it's okay. We got something else for you. You don't have to die completely. You can eat a cup of dove's poop for $25. That's what they were eating in those days. That's how bad the famine was. Can you imagine being a couple that's dating and you're trying to impress your girl as a guy, and you say, baby, I've got this great date planned for you. We're going to go out, we're going to eat some donkey head, and then for dessert, we're going to have some dove poop. And then you're sitting at the table, and all of a sudden you feel something in there, and you're like, as you're eating that dove poop, you're like, ooh, this bird must have ate blueberries today. I got a seed right there. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Don't act like you don't. But that's how bad this famine had gotten. And so let's see how the end of this story, how this story plays out. So we're going to continue reading. 2 Kings chapter 7, verse 5. Keep in mind, these lepers have said, we need to go. We're going to throw ourselves at the enemy. We want to, if they kill us, they're going to kill us. But we've got nothing to lose. So here we go. 2 Kings chapter 7, verse 5. It says, at dusk, they, being the 4 lepers, they got up and went to the camp of the Syrians. When they reached the edge of the camp, there was no one there. For the Lord had caused the Assyrians to hear the sound of chariots and horses and a great army. And so they said one to another, look, the king of Israel has hired the Hittites and the Egyptian king to attack us. So they got up and fled in the dusk and abandoned their tents, their horses, and their donkeys. They left the camp as it was and ran for their lives. The men who had leprosy reached the edge of the camp. They entered one of the tents, and they ate and they drank. Then they took silver and gold and clothes and went off and hid them. They returned and entered another tent, and they took some things from it and hid them also. So when you read on down there in a few verses, you see that they're basically those 4 lepers have come in, and they're just having their own personal party. Man, they're having all the food they want. They're drinking all the water they want to drink, all the sodas, whatever it is, tea. Man, they're living it up. Well, after they get their bellies full, then this is what they say, and I love this. It took one of them. They're sitting there, and they're like, man, you know what? This isn't right. We need to let them know back in the town what's going on. And so they go back and tell everybody. The officials come up, check it out, and yes, they determined the camp was theirs, and it was free to take, and the famine was over at that point. So I'm thinking, wow, that is interesting. But you know, God had set a plan in place to end that famine, but he needed someone to get uncomfortable enough that they were willing to die to see their situation change. Remember, because the lepers said, if they kill us, then we die. We've got nothing to lose. They were ready to see their situation change. So I have a few thoughts on this. My first one is this. Their current situation would not change unless they were willing to take a chance. See, they had thought through this thing. They defined their options. They said, if we sit here, we're going to die. We're doing the same thing. Nothing's going to change. If we go into the city, we're going to die. So it seems like our best option is to take a chance. And let's go see where we know that they've got food and they know that they've got water. See, they made up their mind that regardless of the outcome, they were going to do something to change their circumstance. What's going on right now that God's prompting in you? Where are you kind of stuck? Be thinking of that. Let the Holy Spirit work on you through this. My second point is this. If you don't take a chance, you're never going to have a chance at success. By making the decision to go to the Syrian camp, they not only helped themselves, but they also helped the people of Samaria. Because if they hadn't have been brave enough to get up and go, the people in Samaria would have died from a famine. But because of their bravery, they were able to go and eat, and then everybody else was able to go. Now, what I really found really cool about this, a leper, in case you don't know, a leper was someone in the Bible that people considered, they considered them sinners. They were unclean. They had a skin disease. Nobody wanted to be around them. If they seen you coming and you were walking on the same street as them, they're yelling at you way ahead of time saying, hey, I'm a leper. I'm unclean. I'm unclean. Nobody wanted them. They had to stay in their own little community. But isn't it just like our God to use the most unlikely thing to change our situations? He never writes anybody off. I don't know what you're going through this morning. I don't know if you've got things that God is dealing with you right now that says, you know what, I need to change. Let's be real. Maybe you're dealing with an addiction this morning. Maybe you feel like one of those lepers. They're unclean. Nobody wants to be around them. If you feel that way, God is saying, hey, I've got your back. I can change that situation. You just got to listen. You just got to hear what I'm saying. God is for us. No matter what's going on in our lives, He's for us. He's calling us out to a higher level. He's calling these lepers to go to a city where they could potentially be killed. But when they stepped out, it worked out for good. So I thought, okay, well, how in the world can I relate what's going on in this passage to my own life? I'm glad you asked. So here's what I think. You know, when you think about it, what are some areas that we can relate when taking a chance? Well, the first thing that popped into my mind, we take a chance when we get married. But you know, you take a chance when you propose. And the reason I can say that is because I have an older son. Everybody knows him. Everybody knows Dylan. Dylan has been dating this beautiful young lady in this second row. Her name is Mariah. They've been dating for what, 4 years, right? So over the Christmas holiday, we're at a big family get-together. And Dylan proposed to Mariah, and she accepted. So I'm very excited about that. And, you know, side note, I think God has His hand on that couple. I believe He's going to do some amazing things in them. And, you know, so what they didn't get to see, though, Dylan and I were sitting back. You know, Mariah's out. She had no clue it was coming. So me and Dylan are kind of sitting in the back, and he's like, Dad, I'm so nervous. Dad, I'm so nervous. Dad, my belly hurts. No, I'm just kidding. He's grown past that. But no, he was like, Dad, I'm just so nervous. I think I'm going to pass out. He's went from his belly hurting to passing out now. And I'm like, Dylan, it's okay. It's going to be all right. It's going to be good. Don't worry about it. So he drops down on one knee. But the reason he was nervous, it wasn't the fact that he was asking her to marry him. It was the fact there was a possibility, there was a chance. He's put his heart out on his sleeve, and she could crush his heart by saying no. That's where that nervousness came from. But, man, she's a smart girl. She said yes. She knows what's going on. But that's one way that we take a chance. You know, with me and Alicia and I have been married 23 years, correct? 23, soon to be 24. January 31st will be 24 years. We dated 3 years before that. I did the same thing, man. I dropped down on one knee. There was a chance that she could say no, but it didn't matter to me. To me, the reward outweighed the risk. I was willing to take that chance. Have you been there? Can you relate to that? Maybe you can go back to your own story there. Another way that we take a chance is starting a family. You know, when you start a family, you have babies. Here's the latest statistic. Brandon, Molly, close your ears. You might not want to hear this. From birth to 18 years old, $285,000 is what you can expect to pay to get that kid raised. And that doesn't include college. Just thought I'd throw that out there, Brandon. But, you know what? There's a chance, too, that when you have a baby, there's always a health issue that may rear its ugly head. But I got another story about a baby, and I know I'm talking a lot about Dylan. So Dawson and Jax, if you guys are listening, man, I love you guys. I'm not playing favorites at all, but it just so happens to be this ties in. I love you guys, man. I'm telling you, I got some great boys. I just want y'all to know that. I got some great boys, and I'm going to brag on them every chance I get. But anyways, when you have a baby, we talked about the risk of that, you know. Alicia, with Dylan, she ended up having some complications, so they had to put her out under general anesthesia. So I'm lucky enough that I get to stay back in the OR. I had a buddy, I was in the Air Force, and he's like, oh, yeah, you got this, man, just hang out. So I'm back in there, and, man, I'll be honest with you, I seen some things I never wanted to see again. But I seen intestines laid out. I seen all these things. And then when they closed her back up, they just, like, scooped it all up and tucked it back in and sewed her up. I'm thinking, oh, my word, what did I just witness? Wow, holy cow. So Dylan comes out. Man, he is screaming mad. Oh, he did not want to get out of that sauna, let me just tell you. Mad as he could be, just screaming and going on. The nurse grabs him, and she's jerking him around. I wanted to go over and beat her up, but I knew that was supposed to be normal. She was checking everything, making sure he was all good. Still screaming. Oh, he's so mad. They wrap him up, and he's still screaming. And then he walks over. They put Dylan in my arms, and I look down at him, and I say, Dylan, it's okay, baby. Daddy's here. He stopped and was content. Just like that. I mean, went from just being crazy to just content. At that moment, I knew what the reward was. Man, I was worried. I didn't want to be a dad. I'm just going to be honest with you. I was enjoying my life the way it was. I didn't want it. As a matter of fact, the weekend he was born, I was like, the doctors, Alicia, we were going out on this one last date, without having any kids. She's like, well, I got to go by and we got to do blood pressure work and stuff. And we'll go out after that. Well, it turns out they ended up inducing labor. And I'm like, Doc, are you sure that's the best thing? I wanted one more weekend without the kid. But all that went away whenever they put him in my arms. See, that reward was well worth the risk. Another way that we take a chance, buying a home. So, from 1994 to 2009, we rented homes. I was in the Air Force. We moved around, lived on base. We couldn't change the color of the walls if we wanted to. So in 2009, we said, you know what? We're going to step out. We're going to buy a house. How many of you know that when you buy a house and you're not familiar with that house, you take a chance? There's a risk associated with that. So we get into our house, man. We are loving it. Oh, it is so good. We're sleeping in our own bed, finally in our own house. About 2:30 in the morning, I hear the most hideous sound I've ever heard in my life. I get up, I walk to where that sound came from, and I see all 15,000 pounds of Alicia's clothing that she stacked in the closet hangers on the floor. There was not even an anchor. They didn't anchor that whole thing into a two before, I don't think. But that was just a risk that you take. You know what? That's my house. I can fix that. If I had never stepped out and bought that house, I'd never enjoy the benefits of being able to raise my family in a house. I'd never be able to go out in the yard and play ball with them. I love passing football with Dawson and Jax. But those are the benefits of owning my own home. If I want to change the color, I can change the color. It don't matter. Those are just some things that you have to confront. There's always a risk. Last thing I know about our home, Alicia was about a week later. She was in the bathroom. She was getting ready. I think she was blow drying her hair. And I'm just laying on the bed watching TV, and then all at once she says, Dave. Thought, that's odd. When she says that means I've done something wrong. That's probably not good. And I said, yes. She said, is that normal? If you have to ask that question, it's probably not normal, probably not a good thing. When I walked in there, we had sewage backing up in our tub. Yeah, not good. That was exactly what I said, exactly what y'all did. I went, oh. But you know what? Just a minor setback. That's my home now. I'm getting ready to change the color. We're getting ready to decorate it. We're getting ready to change whatever I wanted to. But when I was renting, I couldn't do any of that. See, the reward outweighed the risk. All right, let's see. My third thing here is you cannot have success without taking a chance. See, those leopards took a chance by going to the Syrian camp. But I have to ask you this. Who do you think put the thought in there for them to go to that Syrian camp? Do you think they just sit around and come up with that thought all on their own? No, I don't. Because God had already worked the situation out. He just needed somebody to step out and follow his leading. Maybe God's doing that to you now. Maybe he's throwing some things in your mind right now of what you need to do and step out. We'll discuss that here in just a second. I do believe this, though. I believe the Holy Spirit is prompting some things in you that you know that this message is for you. Number 4, don't let the fear of risk knock you out of a chance of a lifetime. See, some of you have been asked to take a promotion at your job. You've been asked to step up in a leadership role. But you're afraid to do it. You're scared. And that's okay. But do it. It's an opportunity that I promise you won't regret. Take a chance on pursuing after your dream. What is the dream that's down in your spirit that maybe you've had as a little kid all the way through adulthood, but through circumstances that dream has been suppressed? What is that dream? Rekindle that fire in that dream. You serve a big God. He's telling you to step out. Take a chance on it. Take a chance on asking for forgiveness on broken relationships. Maybe your marriage ain't where you want it to be. Maybe there's some things going on in your marriage and you know that you got to make some things right. Take a chance. You got nothing to lose. You got nothing to lose on that. This is a big one that we all deal with. Take a chance on mending those family ties. You know, when you get together at family functions, inevitably somebody's going to say something just to tick you off. I mean, y'all, come on. If I'm telling the truth, raise your hand. Let me know. All right, good. But you know what? I want you to do this with me. Go like this. Go. Let it out. Did everybody breathe? Raise your hand if you did not breathe. I'm not seeing any hand. Okay, good. So that means you're all still alive. Guys, you've got time. Make it right. Go to that person that's in your family. You only get them once. Make it right. Church called home, here's a big one. Let's take a chance on the vision of the house that Pastor Jay and Melissa has given us to do. Man, I believe these guys hear from the Lord. I love having them as our pastors. Let's take a chance. Let's step out even bigger than what 2018 was. Man, I think 2019, we can blow the doors off of this place. I believe people can be everywhere. We can reach the community. You know, our goal here at the church called home is this. We want to create a home for those that's near and far from God. That's it. That's simple. But we need you to do it. Take a chance. How do you do that? I'm glad you asked. We need your help. We need you to help. Maybe God's saying it's time for you to step out and serve in a certain area. We need you. I know parking team, man, we need some people in the parking team. We need some people in the cafe. We need you. If you're not serving, it's time to step up. Take a chance on serving. You know, if you want something different in your life, then do something different. Don't just do the same exact thing and then expect a different result. I heard somebody say that was defined as insanity. I did not look that up, so don't quote me on that. But it does make sense. You can't keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. If you're uncomfortable in a certain part of your life and you know that God's calling you out, step out into something different. I believe it's time that we take a chance and let's see what God can do as we step out in obedience and not worry about the risk. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that when I proposed to Alicia, I didn't really worry about the risk. All I seen was the benefits. Faith and fear cannot, I repeat, it cannot share the same house. In the book of Matthew, chapter 14, verses 22, we have a story about Peter. Peter's in a boat, and he sees Jesus at a distance. Jesus calls him out of that boat. Peter knew that Jesus had called him. And so he got up and walked on water. Those are the only two guys that I know that's walked on water. Yeah, he gets a lot of flack because he started to sink, but hey, you would have too. So, you know, but the fact of the matter is he walked on water. So I've got two questions for you. What's God calling you to? The first question is, what is God calling you to take a chance on? Is it salvation? Maybe you're here today and you say, you know what? I haven't asked Jesus into my heart. Man, we can take care of that. That little nudge in your spirit that you feel, like Pastor Jay's talking, the white knuckle thing, if that's you, man, that's a great thing. Don't discount that. That's not a bad thing. That's just the Spirit of God saying, hey, I love you. It's time to take a chance. Maybe it's in public confession of your faith. Maybe you haven't been baptized and you've been thinking about it. Man, it's time to do that. Step out and do that. Make that public confession. RSVP for Growth Track. You know, a lot of you said, man, I want to go to Growth Track. Well, stop saying you want to go. Just go. We got it. RSVP, we're going to take care of you. We can hook you up, man, get you started on a great path to just success. And then my second question is this: what's stopping you? And only you can answer that. Only you can answer what it is that's stopping you. But I want to encourage you in this. You're being called. That tug that you're feeling in your spirit, that thought that's coming through your mind, yeah, I really need to do that. That's God calling you. And I want you to know what happens when you have the word of the Lord behind you. Check it out. Jeremiah 29:11 says this. He says, for I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you, plans not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and to give you a future. Romans 8:31 says this, says, if God is for me, who can be against me? 2 Timothy chapter 1:7 says this, that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Psalms 37:23 says this, the steps of a righteous man are ordered of the Lord. Man, I'm ready to take a chance on some things. How about you guys? Man, you know, there's one other thing that we need to talk about. See, God took the biggest chance of all. He took a chance on us. He sent his son Jesus to come down to this earth to die a horrible death on a cross, to suffer excruciating pain, all because of me and because of you. He took a chance that he knew that there is a chance that my son's going to go through all this and there's still people going to reject him. But this morning, don't be one of those guys. Don't be one of those people. If you don't know him this morning, God loves you. He took a chance on you. Now you take a chance on him.